Like you didn't even have to have a job, and you could just say you had a job or whatever. They wouldn't even check. And then they have their buddy appraisers go out there and appraise it for 200,000 more than it's worth just to make sure the deal goes through. And here you are getting stuck with the loan on a bad value that was escalated by, corruption in my mind through the system. Right. And that's why they crack down and put all the lending regulations on appraisers and the scrutiny behind, approvals and all the, you have to give your right arm now, you have to give blood and stuff to get a loan these days compared to what it was back then.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Zero to Diamond podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Carruth. I'm on a mission to help reduce the failure rate in the real estate industry by helping you master your skills on the phone, conquer your fears, and changing your mindset. Now let's get into the show.
Hi, everybody. This is Jose Morales. Welcome back to the Morales Group Show. This is episode number 79. Today, we've got a very special guest. His name is Ricky Carruth. He's a real estate agent. He's a real estate mentor and somebody that has given a lot back to the community. Welcome to the show, Ricky. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Good. So I wanted to just start off by asking, who is Ricky Carruth and how did you stumble upon the real estate market?
No, it's a very good question, man. And really at heart, I'm just like an entrepreneur, right? I just love to build businesses and I love to help people, right? And so in today's world, the future of business, right? The future of business models, in my opinion, are where everyone wins, not just a corporation or not just a coach or not just, the one entity, but, the everyone wins. Okay. That's the future of business. And we're going to see it more and more and more as we have more free coaches and people giving more free value and companies who give away free equity, so on and so forth. So we're going to see more and more of that. The way I got into real estate was I was in college. I went to 4 different colleges in 2 years and failed a history class. And I basically just gave up on college because I just felt like I didn't see the point in it myself. And I wasn't really good at school at that point. I was really all A's and B's in high school. I made like 1 C in all of high school, but I was sleeping. I had my head on my desk, and the teacher's always like, "Wake up, Ricky," type thing. But I was like half asleep, but I could hear everything, and it was just, high school was easy. You get into college and it's not easy. Like, you really have to study and you really have to put forth a lot of effort. And it's not that I didn't want to put forth effort. I just wasn't interested in history. I just wasn't interested in, the very depths of literature and I loved math. I was good at math. I'm still good at math, like surface level math, I'm really good on calculating certain things in my head quickly and stuff like that. But when it gets into the deepness of algebra and all going all the way in there with all that stuff, just not interesting to me. It's just kind of thanks, but no thanks. Right. And so I just, more power to much respect to people who do go to college, who graduate. If you graduate college, you are a beast. I'm telling you right now, because I went to 4 different colleges in 2 years. And I was not cut out for that. So I realized that I could get my real estate license with 1 class, right? Not even a full semester, just 1 class. Okay. And I could have the same opportunities as doctors and lawyers who went to school for 10 years. Sign me up for that one, right? I want to take that class, the 1 class, and then you have the same opportunities as doctors and lawyers. Sign me up for that one. So I did it. When I took the class, I realized, well, once I take the class, I have to take a test within a year. Then I have 90 days to find a broker. And I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this. This is way too much commitment. I don't know what I got myself into here. And at the end of the day, I passed the class barely, because I was following widespread panic around the country during that time. So I don't even know how I passed that class. Went back home and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, Dad. He's like, well, come roofing with me, son. Well, you can just roof with me if you want to. I did that for 3 days and I was like, Dad, I think I'm going to try to take this test and be a real estate agent. I don't want to do roofs forever, even though I loved roofing. I honestly did. I grew up in the business. My dad had a business for 30 years. I watched him roof growing up. He had me and my brother on the roof when we were 12 years old, cleaning up the job sites and stuff. I was laying shingles when I was 15 and loved roofing, right? But I knew that physically I wasn't going to be able to do that forever. And also, like there's a guy I heard of that's a billionaire roofer, right? He actually died on a roof. He's a billionaire. Like he was on his own roof roofing. He fell through and died, but he actually became a billionaire because he was a roofer for so long, but then he opened up these roofing shops, where they sell shingles and metal and roofing supplies. He was a roofing supply, shop owner. And then he opened up different franchises and became a billionaire roofer. So it can be done. You can accomplish those financial goals with anything, of course. But what are the chances that you're going to become a billionaire roofer versus a billionaire real estate agent / investor / entrepreneur? So yeah, I just started moving in that direction. And then comes the journey of actually selling a house and learning how to become a real estate agent and, the journey that I've been through there. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, were you like an instant superstar? Because I know at some point you were the #1 agent for Remax in Alabama, which is obviously, I mean, it's a big, obviously accomplishment, but were you like an instant success? Like, hey, look, I just got in and started selling hundreds of homes, or did it challenge you to get to coming at some point the #1 agent in Alabama?
Well, listen, in my mind, I was, right. In my mind, I was, the top agent around there. Right. And that's how you have to think. And then once you can actually visualize yourself as the top agent, right, then you have to understand that it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take you many, many years and a lot of patience, a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointments along the way. So I got in, it took me 8 months to make my first sale. Yeah. Well, everybody's the same. Like you talk to anybody and the average is 6 months for people who actually make it in the business. 90% of people don't make it. The people who do, the average is 6 months. That's been true for decades. Even with technology, the run of technology lately in the past 5-10 years, that hasn't changed the learning curve of an agent and how fast it takes you to get to your first deal. There may be a minuscule difference. Like maybe the average used to be 6.5 months and now it's 6.2 months or something like that. But it's still a long time, no matter how you slice it up. The learning curve and how long it takes you to get to your first sale is still the same. There's people that come in and sell in 1 month, sell one property. That's dangerous, by the way, because then they kind of have this false sense of security. I see that all the time. They'll sell something quick and then they just crash and burn for the next 4 or 5 months and quit.
At the same time, like I was the guy that took 6 months. 3 other people got their sale in the first month. They got this like, oh my God, I've got this thing figured out. And then the reality was that they didn't. They thought it was going to be easy just because they got the sale for one.
No, dude, I see it. I see it quite often. And what I try to do with those agents is let them know the reality of that situation. Listen, it's great that you got your first sale, but listen, what about next month and the month after? It's about pipeline. You got to have a pipeline in place. And most agents, they don't understand. Most agents, period, not just new agents, they don't understand the benchmarks behind what their pipeline needs to look like to produce a certain number of sales. It's real simple math. I told you I was good at math and I'm really good at simple math. And if you talk to most agents and you say, okay, how many active buyers and sellers are you working with? The most common answer is 4. And that's just my research, like me asking agents. The most common answer I get is 4. And statistically speaking, that's no deals, right? That's 0.8 deals. That's 0. I've always had 25 plus, right, active buyers and sellers. And I've always closed 2 a week since 2014, 2 a week, 2 a week, 2 a week. If I want 1 a week, I'm going to have 15 to 20 buyers or sellers actively in my pipeline. Whereas I'm working that list, it's separated from my database. If they go ghost, if they tell me they're not interested anymore, if they go with another agent, if they move forward with me, they're off that list. I'm talking about prospects that haven't done anything yet, that are actively looking to do something, right? And so that number has to be maintained. If you go below the 15, you're going to go below your 1 a week that you want to close. It's just really, really, really simple math. But back to your question, it took me 8 months to make my first sale. It was back in the early 2000s when the market exploded. I made $1 million quickly and then lost it all in the crash, went bankrupt, went back to roofing houses, worked on an oil rig for a while, read 100 books, came back into real estate in 2008. Okay. Then from 2008 to 2014, right, I worked 15 hours a day to get to 100 deals a year. So I'm just single agent, one assistant, always have been. And so understand the timeline, right? Get in, make my first sale in 8 months, make a meal, lose it, get back in. And then after everything I learned through all that, still took me 6 years of 15 hours a day to get to 100 deals. 6 years. And agents are coming in complaining to me when they're, 4 months in, 2 years in, right? And they haven't sold, 50 deals yet, or 20 deals yet, or 100 deals yet, or whatever. And it's like, dude, listen, like I made a meal, lost it. The lessons I learned from that, took that, and then using the lessons I learned, it took me another 6 years of 15 hours a day to get to 100 deals a year, and everybody wants everything year number one when they don't realize year one is like, chalk that up, throw that away. That doesn't mean nothing, man. That year one is learning how to do a contract, learn how to talk to people, learn how to do MLS, learn how to listing, learning the process of a transaction, learn how to build a database, putting your systems in place. All those things are worth millions and millions of dollars to you. And all you're looking at is the 39,000 you made and saying you're a loser. Bro, you're the top 10% of real estate agents who made it through your first year with a paycheck. And you're able to now take the foundation you built and really crush it for a 6-figure year in your second year. It's nuts.
You mind me asking? Because I think a lot of times people can lose from other people's lessons. Like for me, I feel like I was lucky enough, Ricky, where I got into the business in 2010. So I saw the struggles of what people were going through right after the market crash. Yeah. And I didn't get to experience it myself, which I'm glad that I didn't, but I got to see everybody else around me. And that always stuck in my head. I'm like, I don't ever want to be in that position where I put my family through something like that.
Yeah.
Like what lessons did you learn losing that $1 million? Or what would you, looking back at it now, I know you wouldn't have done it differently just because obviously it's a lesson, but what advice would you give to somebody that maybe that you wouldn't do again in that situation?
Well, I mean, listen, I was in a very interesting market to say the least, right? Things, it's similar to the market we were just in, where things were the prices were escalating so much, so quickly, but the big difference was lending, right? So back then they were doing no doc lending. Yeah. You could just say you were making $1 million a year and they believed you for no reason, right? No reason. They didn't have to, you have to prove anything. You have to do anything. So they're literally like when like nowadays, when they say they're giving money away because interest rates are so low, no, they were literally giving money away like for no reason. Like you didn't even have to have a job and you could just say you had a job or whatever. They wouldn't even check. And then they have their buddy appraisers go out there and appraise it for 200,000 more than it's worth just to make sure the deal goes through. And here you are getting stuck with the loan on a bad loan, a bad value that was escalated by, corruption in my mind through the system. Right. And that's why they cracked down and put all the lending regulations on appraisers and the scrutiny behind, approvals and all the, you have to give your right arm now, you have to give blood and stuff to get a loan these days compared to what it was back then. And that's for good reason. Yeah. Right. So that we don't end up in this mess again. And I love the fact that we went that direction after all this happened, because now we just had a crazy rise in prices, just like we saw back in 2003 and 4. But you know what else we didn't see? We didn't see a crash and burn, right? We haven't seen a crash and burn. I mean, it's too early to say that. We're still kind of leveling off from that. So it's too early to say we haven't seen a crash and burn. But however, I feel like this is a much more solid market, okay, because of the fact that these buyers are end users. Okay, these buyers are highly qualified, that banks have used the new lending regulations to make sure that they can actually afford these houses long term, and that they've proven the income. They know that these people make this money. It just makes for a much solid market that's not going to, now that's not to say we don't see a downturn and we don't see a 10-20% decrease in prices. That, I mean, anything can happen, and absolutely. But what we saw back then, we saw 50% decreases. We saw 60% decreases. I mean, we probably seen more than that in certain areas. I don't see that happening, on top of the fact that, investors and just people in general have much more. I think we are at all-time high as far as like how much actual cash people have on hand. I don't know if we're at an all-time high. I think we're at an all-time high of people who are just sitting on cash, which means what? There's cushion in the market. If prices go down, what's that cash going to do? Buy those good deals, buy those good stocks, buy those good houses for cheaper prices. And that's going to make the market level out a lot higher than it would have if there's, say, no cash out there, or if people really couldn't afford the houses they're buying, so on and so forth. So
would you say that the lesson was that people were more speculative, meaning that they didn't care if property produced enough cash flow?
Exactly.
Because the reality was that if they bought today and they held it for a year, the market was $100,000-$200,000 more. And as long as the market kept increasing, everybody was happy.
Yeah.
But when the market started decreasing, like, they ended up with properties that were unsustainable, meaning they didn't produce enough cash flow to basically produce. So I think the lesson there for our viewers would be that if you're going to get into real estate investing and you're going to hold properties, make sure that the asset, that you're not just buying on speculation, like thinking, hey, the market's going to go up forever, but that the asset can produce enough income to basically sustain itself. So walk us through, like, okay, like your journey, like what did you do to become the number one agent during those 6 years of working 15 hours a day? Like, what did you do during those 6 years to become the number one agent? Because I'm sure there's a lot of viewers out there that look at somebody like you, obviously have aspirations to become, but a lot of times they don't know what it actually takes to become that. And then at the end, is it as sexy as people make it? Because we were for Remax the number 17 team in California as well too, but it's not easy. It's not something that was like, just, hey, look, there was a lot of sacrifice there. So can you walk us through that?
No, absolutely. So, I mean, really early in my career, I realized that property owners were the best prospects, right? They're your best buyers. Okay. They're the most educated. You're not, they know what they want. They just need someone to help them, get the job done, help them do what they're trying to do. And that's how I've sold so much property in my career, is because when I did lose everything and came back, I realized that back then, the one reason I lost everything is because I was so focused on just the deal and just getting deals done. I was not trying to get to know people. I lost myself in there somewhere, because I started out in real estate wanting to help people. But when you start to get the money, you see how easy it is. The market was very easy at that time. I mean, it was super easy. And, they weren't really trying to get to know me either, because those sellers were selling and making 200,000, and they weren't going to rebuy in that same market that they just, bought for 200,000 less and made 200,000. They're going to sit that one out. They were smart enough. Well, so they didn't have anything to talk to me about either. So, it was both sides. They weren't trying to get to know me. I wasn't trying to get to know them. I was just going to look for somebody else that wanted to make 200,000. And so what I realized was that, one of the reasons why I lost everything in terms of sales was because I wasn't creating relationships and building my brand, right? That was the reason I lost, because at the end of the day, one of the big aha moments was when I looked through the market, right as I was starting to get back into the business and try to do the research and try to figure out where I went wrong. I was studying the market. I was looking at MLS, and I was, just looking at the different agent sales. How much did they sell during this down moment? Like 2007 was our worst year in terms of transactions. I was looking at the agents who were actually selling 20, 30, 40 properties during those years, and what are they doing? What kind of properties are they selling? What I realized was that, 2000, let's say 5 to 2010, that was the worst real estate crash, we've seen in our lifetime. Surely there's, bigger crashes ever in history. Who knows? I don't know. But as I looked through the worst real estate crash, real estate was the driver of the crash, worst real estate crash that we've ever seen. What I realized was during the worst crash ever, closings were still happening every day by the truckloads.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that gave me this aha moment. I started to realize a few things, And then I had to sit down and think about that for a second. Okay. I mean, this is like, wait a minute. Like it's like you're digging for gold. You're chipping away at the mountain, chipping away, for days and days and days. And then boom, you hit a little piece of gold and you see a little glimmer in there, around the dirt. And you're like, wait a minute, I think I finally hit something here. Right. And and realizing that was that moment where I hit gold for a second. And I was like, well, let me pull back a little more dirt here and see how big this nugget is. And so as I'm pulling it back, I'm realizing, well, wait a minute, how many closings are happening every day? A bunch, a bunch. In the worst of times, a bunch of closings, right? And not only just closings in MLS, which means what? They're being filled by real estate agents. Okay, let me just pull back a little more. Okay, wait a minute. Out of those truckloads of closings that are happening, okay, let's multiply them by 2.
There's 2 agents.
There's a buyer and there's a seller. Okay, multiply those closings by 2. And what do you have? That's how many opportunities you have every single day in your market. Yeah. So there's not a market out there in the world that you could pull up and show me that there's been 0 closings in a day. Like, you show me a market that had 0 closings in a day, you're not going to find it. Go back for the rest of your life and find me a day through 9/11, .com crash, the stock market crash 2008, the pandemic, right? One of the scariest moments in the last 100 years. 80% of the same amount of closings. Okay. Well, those were under contract before the shutdown. Okay. What about this? 80% of the same amount of pending deals, right? 80% of the same amount of pending deals that went pending during that shutdown, complete shutdown, mid-April to May 1st. 80% of the same amount of pending deals as it was that same 45-day period the year prior. Okay. And then the market explodes after that. Okay. And it's been on a tear ever since. And now we're finally starting to, where it's finally starting to slow down a little bit and take a breather from that huge run that we've been on. So when you understand the market and the cycles, and you get behind the fact that, okay, you've got to get out of this, number one, scarcity and competition mindset, but also that the market has anything to do with your success. And so people are worried like, oh, when the market's great, I'm going to do great. But when it crashes, oh no, that's not true. Okay. That's not true at all, because closings continue to happen every day. What happens? Prices adjust. Why do they adjust? Well, they have to adjust to a place where people are still willing to buy. What does that mean? People are still willing to buy. And so there's always people buying, and there's always people selling. There's people that have to sell. There's people that want to sell. There's whatever. It's happening. Sorry, guys, it's happening. You can't use the market as an excuse, right? It's just, you can't. And so when you realize all that, okay, I'm just taking you through the mindset of what I had to realize before I could actually build the foundation correctly. And so when I realized, okay, closings happen every day, blah, 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 and then I realized, well, okay, well, how do I become the agent of all these closings, right? If you ask a buyer or seller at the end of a closing how they pick their agent, right? What do you think the top answer is?
A friend, referral, a friend, somebody was recommended to me.
They had a friend in the business. Okay, guys, another incredible podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you got tons of value. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, go to 0to-diamond.com and join my free coaching program, and also subscribe to my YouTube and follow me on Instagram at Ricky Carruth. If you need anything whatsoever or just want to say hi, I answer every single message on Instagram. And tune in tomorrow for another 0 to Diamond podcast. Let's go.